and thank you so much for clicking on the video. I'm here sitting with my new friend, James Donahue, who is a flutist out in Chicago. James, thank you so much for being with me on Zoom.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This will be fun.
So, if for people who don't know you, and you say James Donahue, who are you? What do you do?
Well, so I'm a flutist, as you said, living in the Chicago area. I have a pretty interesting, diverse career. Actually, right now I'm doing a lot more orchestral playing than I ever thought I would be doing or wanted to do. But it's been fun and fulfilling. Right now, I'm principal flute in the Evanston Symphony, which I've been doing since about 2012, I think, and it's just a smaller orchestra. So I never wanted to be one of these players that's doing a different orchestral program every week. So this allows me to still play the great repertoire with a great group of people, but it's much less of a time commitment. I do some freelance work, subbing and playing as an extra with different orchestras throughout the Chicago area. Do quite a bit of chamber music with the Midwest Fine Arts Society, different instrumentation. Maybe one day I'll be doing a flute quartet with strings or woodwind ensembles, different things like that. And I teach at Midwest Conservatory of Music, which is in Schaumburg, Illinois. And I maintain a studio of about 20 students, which is about my limit right now, because then I can still do my performing. And then the other aspect of my life, which is I'm a dog breeder and I show dogs and judge dogs and travel all over the world doing that.
Yeah, a lot of the things you do are really fascinating, and I definitely want to come back to the show dogs because I'm
Yeah.
personally a huge dog lover. But let's talk about how you got into flute in the first place and what made you want to become a classical musician.
Well, my dad was a musician, but my
And what did
parents
he
divorced
play?
when the piano.
Oh, piano. Okay.
And yeah, and so my parents did divorce when I was very young, but I think that some part of me just always had that music kind of born in. I knew from a really young age, I'm not really sure why, I wanted to play the flute. And so I spent several years when I was in elementary school asking all the time, I want a flute. I want to start learning to play the flute. And it didn't really happen until I was in the 6th grade, which I grew up in Texas, and that was kind of the age we started band. It was in 6th grade at the time. And so I started doing that and took to it really quickly and figured out it was something that I was pretty good at. And just started, I think like a lot of serious students, entering competitions, winning one here and there, playing different concerts, learning more about the great repertoire that's out there. And I thought, I don't really see myself doing anything else professionally.
So which part of Texas did you live in?
So I grew up in New Braunfels, which is kind of between San Antonio and Austin.
Okay.
Yeah, and at the time I was studying flute with Tal Perks, who was principal flute in the San Antonio Symphony. I studied with him from my 7th grade year until I graduated from high school. And actually something that really set me on the path that I'm on today with my interest in contemporary music and world music. Tal was married to a flutist named Martha Fabrique, really gifted musician, and actually she also played the shakuhachi. And when I was in the 8th grade, I was over at their house for a flute lesson, and she handed me a flyer to invite me to a concert that she was giving. And so I thought, sure, I'll go hear this concert. And it did say the heading was Martha Fabrique, Flute and Shakuhachi. And my 8th grade self didn't know what a shakuhachi was, but I was always interested in hearing the music. So went to the concert, and it was mostly contemporary flute music. And there were 2 compositions that I heard for the first time. One was Takamitsu's Toward the Sea for alto flute and guitar, and the other was a solo piece called Mei by Fukushima. And it was sounds that I hadn't really heard the flute do before. At that time, I had been mostly playing Bach sonatas and Paris Conservatory contest pieces, so it was kind of a new and interesting sounds. And she played a trio for flute, alto flute, and shakuhachi. Contemporary composition, a lot of extended techniques and singing and playing, things like that. And so that kind of got my interest in new music and new unconventional sounds. And you know, it got to a point where, you know, playing Mozart concertos and things like that, which I still do on a somewhat regular basis, is not my musical aesthetic. So I prefer playing contemporary music, and particularly music by Japanese composers. So
So I guess everybody now knows what our connection is in terms of
yeah,
how we got connected through the Shakuhachi. But actually, you have a concert coming up in November, which you're actually going to be playing one of my pieces, Bright Wind.
yes.
And so I want to get there soon, but you're pushing me to the next topic. I want to know a little bit more about James before we get there.
Okay.
So you went to Oberlin Conservatory.
Well, first I went to Baylor.
Okay,
So
Baylor. Okay.
yeah, I did a Bachelor of Music and Performance at Baylor, studied with Helen Ann Shanley. And I was one of those kids, you know, out of high school that pretty much got waitlisted at every major conservatory. And so I ended up
at me too.
yeah. So I ended up at Baylor, which was kind of my safety net school, but it turned out being really the right place for me at that point. Helen Ann was a great teacher, very methodical, really, you know, fixed a lot of things that were wrong in my technical playing at the time. And she was just a really expressive musician. So I learned a lot about expressive playing and phrasing and beauty of sound from her. And then when I was graduating from Baylor, I was kind of torn. Did I want to go into getting my master's in performance? Did I want to pursue ethnomusicology, which was another interest of mine? And I was about ready to accept a spot at University of Minnesota, doing a double master's degree in performance and ethno. And I ended up getting a spot to do an artist diploma at Oberlin with Michel Debost, one of the great French flutists of the 20th century, who's, you know, always been kind of an idol of mine. So doing some talking with my teacher at the time, and just kind of, you know, how could I pass that opportunity up? So I went and did a 2-year artist diploma at Oberlin, which was a huge breakthrough. I was playing flute probably 6 to 8 hours a day, doing solo recitals constantly in chamber music, and Oberlin had a really stellar new music ensemble.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, so it was
also very strange portion of new music too that they like to do.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, I had the fortunate opportunity to do that. I actually never sat in the Oberlin Orchestra because all I wanted to do was music ensemble. So they allowed me to kind of, you know, choose my own curriculum and path that way.
That's interesting, because at a school like CIM, that would be impossible to.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Yeah, they're so orchestrally driven.
Yeah, same as like Rice University as well. It's the hallmark of their schools. Mm-hmm. Especially for the string players.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So then once you graduated from Ohio, what brought you to Illinois? Why did you want to be in Chicago?
Well, so I graduated from Oberlin and kind of hit a rut professionally. And you know, you were just up the road in Cleveland. So Cleveland was a little bit better than Oberlin, but there was nothing going on.
Yes.
I wasn't getting very many gigs or students at that point. But I was, which we'll talk about later, I was, you know, doing the dog show thing, which has always been another part of my life. And so I opened a dog grooming shop in downtown Oberlin and did that for a couple of years. And
I would have never guessed.
I hated every minute of it. But yeah, so I did that for a couple of years, always knowing that it was kind of a stepping stone. Like I needed to get out of there, trying to save up some money. And I came to Illinois because my partner was here.
Oh, okay. Well, that's exactly why I came to Texas too, because my partner was here as well. That's really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I miss Texas all the time, especially when we get these awful Midwestern winters. And
I know. I grew up in Wisconsin. We used to have snowdrifts, and they would still say, "All right, we'll see you at school. It's -10, -40-degree wind chill, but we'll see you here."
Yeah, absolutely.
It was awful. Absolutely awful. So let's move on to our relationship and how we're connected in the professional scene. So you're actually playing one of my compositions. A lot of people know that I actually did my undergraduate work as a composer, and then I went on to do Actually, it was around the same time that I was actually doing shakuhachi stuff. But my first degree is in composition. So you're playing a piece of mine called Bright Wind. And so what attracted you to this piece and why you wanted to do it, and why program it on this concert that you're doing?
Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about how I found you in this piece in particular. When I was at Oberlin, your shakuhachi teacher, Michael Gould, came and gave a recital. And shakuhachi had always been an interest of mine, Japanese music. So I thought, what the hell, I'm going to ask, if he has any openings for students. So he did, and I ended up taking shakuhachi lessons with Michael for the time that I was in Oberlin, and then didn't do anything with it. Once I came to Illinois, I was concentrating on, getting my career going, building my studio, things like that, and that just really took a back burner. So about 9 months ago, the director of the conservatory where I teach, Taka Matsunaga, approached me one day, and he said, he's actually a violinist, but he said, I have these two shakuhachis that I have no use for. He always thought he would learn one day, and then he ended up having two twins, and between running the school and raising his family now, there was just no time. And he said, I need to raise some money for our school. We need to purchase some percussion equipment for the orchestra. Do you have any interest in buying these shakuhachis? So I did. I bought two really beautiful shakuhachis, and it was kind of the impetus for me to start practicing that instrument again. And so I just kind of wanted to see what was going on. So I went on YouTube. I'm kind of a YouTube addict. And
I get into the dark parts of YouTube, and then
for hours.
Yes.
So I was just looking at shakuhachi videos on YouTube, and one of your videos popped up, and then that led me to the thread of seeing some of your compositions, and I saw the recording of Bright Wind, and I thought, well, this is a composer I don't know. He's writing from a point of view that I find appealing, an aesthetic that I like. Why am I not playing his music? So I found your website. I bought a copy of Bright Wind from you, and then I think several other scores. So what I'm doing in November with the Chicago Flute Festival is I'm presenting a lecture recital on the influence of the shakuhachi and Zen music in contemporary flute compositions. You're the one non-Japanese composer on that program.
Yes.
So I've always loved that repertoire. I think that Japanese composers in particular have a really gifted way of writing for my instrument. I think that the flute culture in Japan, with their traditional instruments and their traditional music is such an important part of Japanese music that it's translated really well into these composers writing for the Western instrument. And your piece, fits right in there. I mean, you have the experience of being a shakuhachi player, composer, even though you're not a flutist, you're able to make that connection, I think, very, very succinctly. What I find interesting about Bright Wind, I've just started digging into it the past week or so, is that it's a very different voice from the Japanese composers. I can hear your shakuhachi influence in the composition, but it's distinctly yours. There's a good bit of Western music, things that we're used to hearing, and the same is with the Japanese composers when they're writing and they do all of these extended techniques, things that to our ears are new and avant-garde, have been happening in Japanese music for hundreds of years. Is that you're not doing it for effect. It serves a purpose, and fits right in with the phrasing of the piece. So I'm really excited to do that. I'll be doing it again in December. Doing a program for New Music Chicago at the Chicago Cultural Center, and I'm doing that piece, and also My Pleas Were Never Heard, your piccolo and harp piece.
Oh, yes, I like that one.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, that was a really wonderful experience to just write that piece as well, too. So it's I'm glad that you're getting a chance to perform Bright Wind twice, as well as My Pleas Were Never Heard.
Yeah, and with My Pleas Were Never Heard, it's going to be kind of hard to follow in Mary Kay Fink's footsteps. I mean, she's such a brilliant piccolo player.
Let me tell you quick stories. Every time I go to colleges and if I get a chance to meet with the flute students, I show them that performance. And when she hits those high notes, they're just so soft and delicate.
So soft, I know.
I think a lot of the flute students, they're just watching it like, it's like, well, that's really good. But then the teacher goes, oh my God, how is she doing that? Because the teachers usually have played piccolo extensively, and they understand that
Mhm.
those high register notes don't do that. So
Yeah.
it's quite an incredible performance. And but I know you're going to do just as well. You're going to sound amazing.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, it's very brave of you to write things like that for the instrument.
Well, when it's Mary Kay Fink, you can write whatever you want.
Exactly, but I think too it shows that it is a very versatile instrument, and I think piccolo repertoire has only taken off maybe in the last 30 years, and
Mhm.
I think that a lot of composers still feel very limited in writing for the instrument. They don't explore the full timbres and range of color available. So
Oh
it's
yeah,
nice
that
to have
the
this
low
piece.
register of piccolo is just gorgeous. It has
Mm,
like that kind of this. It's not the same sound, but it's the same characteristic as shakuhachi, which is hauntingly beautiful. And
yeah.
there's a mystique about it that I really enjoy. So piccolo is a great instrument for me.
Hmm. So yeah, I'm looking forward to both of these programs. They're kind of my two big solo projects that are coming up in the fall. For the Flute Club Festival lecture recital, you're sharing that program with Hosokawa, one of my favorite
He's
living
one of my favorite
composers.
composers too.
Yeah,
I'm
he.
I'm trying to play program his shakuhachi concerto right
Oh
now.
yeah.
It's really difficult to get orchestras to jump on board with that. It's very
Oh, I would kill to do the flute concerto, but it's
Oh yeah, with like four different flutes, right? It's
mhm,
piccolo flute, alto flute, and bass flute.
yeah, everything. It's 20-minute work. It's way underperformed.
Oh yeah,
Um,
it actually got removed from YouTube, by the way. It
oh
used to
really?
be up, and I used to listen to it all the time. And I did a lecture on it once for a junior thesis, I believe, at CIM.
Hmm.
And yeah, then a couple years back, I tried looking it up again, and it was gone.
Yeah, well, it's there is a good recording of it out there, but
Oh yeah, it's
you'll
awesome.
have to dig for it. But so Hosokawa, also Fukushima, and Joji Yuasa are
Mm.
two really. What's interesting to me about those two composers is that they're self-taught.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Same
so
as like Takamitsu. I mean, Takamitsu was fairly self-taught, but he had lots of guidance from Messiaen and other really great,
yeah, there's definitely a little bit more Western influence
for
in
sure.
his music. But the three of them, actually, Fukushima, Yuasa, and Takamitsu, they were all part of the Jiken Kobo experimental workshop in the 50s.
Hmm.
Uh, so it's interesting links there. So
Yeah, absolutely. So, are you still playing Shakuhachi a little bit?
a little bit, and so every summer it's kind of my time to reset my flute playing a little bit.
Hmm.
And this summer, my project has been to, commit myself to shakuhachi a little more. I really regret a lot of times that part of my life got derailed a little bit. So I'm kind of, dusting off some pieces that I studied with Michael. I actually went through your tutorial on Honchirabe a couple of days
Awesome.
ago. It's very helpful.
I love a
So
shameless plug.
yeah. So no, it's good. I hope that you'll continue doing things like that.
Yeah,
Um,
the plan's to get maybe like I have a tone exercise video coming up in a couple weeks, and next week's video is Daiwagaku
oh,
by
okay.
Dodo. So it's probably a piece that you've done as well with
Yeah.
Michael. So
Hmm.
it will be good to go. Good, hopefully, will be good for you, and will help you get through the piece again.
Well, something that's interesting. About 3 years ago, I had a really horrible thing happen. I was the day before I was supposed to start rehearsals for a concert cycle where I was doing one of the Mozart concertos with an orchestra here in Chicago. I was out shopping one day, and all of a sudden, I lost the feeling in my face
What?
and thought I was having a stroke or something. And so it turned out I had Bell's palsy,
Huh?
which is facial paralysis on half of your face. I couldn't play the flute for 6 months.
Oh my
I could
God!
I couldn't even come close enough to forming an embouchure that I could direct air towards the flute.
Wow.
In the first few weeks, just speaking and eating were a challenge enough. So, and none of the doctors could tell me how long it would last. Would I fully recover? I had to take a leave of absence from the orchestra. I continued teaching. I think in that 6 month span of being unable to play, I learned more about teaching than I have for the rest of my career, because I couldn't just pick up a flute and be like, do it like this. I really had to
Uh,
think about how to put it into words. And so in that way, it was a blessing. But it was, I had to retrain my embouchure, everything about it. And with shakuhachi, it actually takes a more controlled, precise embouchure than the Western flute does. And I didn't know if I would ever get, the flexibility back to be able to do that. But it has come, and I think I'm back on track to about where I was when I discontinued lessons. So now it's
that's
something
good.
I'm excited to go forward with again.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you all about the doggos. Can you tell us about the pups?
Yeah, so this all started, I've always been an animal lover, always loved dogs. But when I was a serious flute student, it got to the point where I was living in a practice room and my teacher was like, you need to get a hobby. And so I went and I thought, well, I've always wanted an Afghan hound. So I bought an Afghan hound puppy and started going to dog shows. And it was one of those things where it just was like kind of instantly addicting. And so from that moment on, I've done dog shows. It's a huge part of my life. It keeps me balanced because I don't just live in a practice room now. It gives me an outlet. I'm a very competitive person. So now I can be competitive in the show ring and not with my music, which I think is important. So this has been my entire adult life now, doing dog shows. I breed Afghan hounds and Salukis. We have a pretty world-recognized kennel. We've produced many champions, top-winning dogs. And more recently, I've started judging dogs, which is nice because it takes you all over the world on somebody else's dime. So this year alone, I've been to Australia twice. So that's been great. I'm leaving a little over a week, going to Europe for a Sighthound Festival in Germany. And we're going to make a little mini vacation out of it, spend some time in London, Paris, and Zurich before going to Germany for the dog show.
If I may give you a recommendation, when you stop in London, you should go to the Ledbury, which it's one of the top restaurants in the world.
All right, I'm writing it down.
Yeah, you have to. And anybody who watches this, if you go to London, I went there with a past composer, Omar Paracha, who I also interviewed. And we went there together. We did the tasting menu and did some of the wines. Now, granted, it is very expensive because it is in the top 100 list, but it will be a meal that you never forget. And
that's good.
For my two friends who I was with, Omar and Farouk, this is the only things I have to say to you, and you will also be a part of this group now that you have, once you have done it. Brown sugar tart with a Visanto red wine.
Really?
That's all you need to know.
Okay. All right.
Hopefully, well, I'm pretty sure the menu stays the same, so that would be one of the dessert items, but you will that will change your life.
Okay, well, I'm going to look that up for sure. We love to eat.
That's fantastic. Well, yeah. I really am excited for you to play this piece. And can you give people a date for when that's going to be and where it's going to happen? Both of them, if you have them.
Yeah, so the first program is going to be at the Chicago Flute Festival on Saturday, the 9th of November. And that program is going to be at 10 in the morning because I have ESO obligations the rest of the day. So as much as I'm not a morning person, I'm going to play that recital at 10 o'clock, and I'm sure it'll be great. And then the New Music Chicago program, New Music Chicago does a series, New Music Chicago Presents, which features a different ensemble or performer on the third Thursday of every month. So it's going to be December 19th at noon, their lunchtime concert series. So that one isn't Japanese specific. It's just 21st century flute music. So your two pieces, doing a different piece by Hosokawa than the one I'm doing at the Flute Festival, and then some pieces by Kevin Clark, a bass flute piece that was written for me by Tim McCormick, who was one of my classmates at Oberlin, and just alto flute, piccolo flute, a lot of different things.
Do you prefer a certain type of flute? Like, do you like playing standard flute more than piccolo or vice versa?
It comes and goes. When I was in school, I was kind of the piccolo player and did a lot of that. My first professional engagements were playing piccolo, but since coming to Chicago, I haven't done it so much. Actually, I love to play alto flute. I love the larger flutes and the
Alto flute's
timbres.
pretty sexy. It's got a
Yeah.
wonderful sound.
Have you written anything for it?
Yes, I have actually.
Okay.
I believe there's one piece or somewhere. It might be one of those pieces though that I think I took out back like old Yeller and got rid of it.
Yeah.
But I have a fair amount of those pieces. I I don't know if I have like one that's actually listed on my CV that I want people to know about, but
Yeah.
I think I do have one. But yeah, I really like writing for Western flute, especially since I don't play Western flute. I just play the shakuhachi.
Hmm.
But what I'm actually finding interesting about myself now that like we're talking about these Japanese composers is some of the stuff I'm doing. I actually am programming on. I'm going to Japan again very soon, and I'm playing Takamitsu's Air on shakuhachi.
Oh, really?
Yes. And
Okay.
I'm also going to do voice on shakuhachi, and I'm looking for a guitarist who's willing to put up with me and do Towards the Sea, and I'm going to play it on shakuhachi as well and see
That
how.
I think that'll be really effective, especially voice. I think that some of the breath articulations and things that he was trying to do, they're possible on the flute, but the shakuhachi adds a completely different dimension. Um, what's interesting about what you're saying with that is the Japanese piece that flutists always learn. Its standard part of repertoire is Fukushima's Mei.
Mm,
And he wrote so many great flute works. This is the only one that people play regularly,
yeah,
and I think that a lot of them miss the boat because they don't really take the time to learn about the traditional music and Fukushima's very spiritual um, approach to writing the music. And so I think that they missed the boat with some of the effects. But recently, I found a recording on YouTube of someone playing it on shakuhachi, and it was like the light bulb moment. It's like this is what people need to hear.
hmm.
It just translated beautifully.
Maybe I should do that for for Western flutists is play Mei on shakuhachi and then go through
Mhm.
the score about all the techniques and stuff. That might be
Yeah.
because I when I go to the colleges, we go through a lot of those techniques and we talk about it, and especially with saxophone players too. There's a composer who wrote this improvisation. His name is Ryo Noda is his name, and it's all based on shakuhachi sounds. And the saxophone players are doing a great job, but then when I go in and I show them the techniques, they go, "Oh, well, actually, I can do that," and then they create this amazing sound that's much more shakuhachi like. So
Yeah.
see how
Well, yeah,
that.
that could be interesting. Maybe we could collaborate on that because I think that when I teach this piece and when I hear people play the piece, I think that sometimes they just gloss over some of the things that he's put into the score, which are possible on the flute, but they're not getting around to doing it. They haven't considered, well, this different fingering or this way of doing this pitch bend is more effective. So I
Oh
think it could be
yeah,
interesting. Maybe if you play them on shakuhachi, and then I can say, well, this is how you can do this on the flute. Um, could be
I'd
an
be
interesting
down for that.
resource.
That'd
Yeah.
be yeah, and I think we can do it with a couple pieces, especially if people like the content. That I'm definitely interested in.
Yeah,
So,
perfect.
but yeah, we're going to talk more, and I'm really excited for you to play the piece. And where can people learn more information about you?
So my website is jamesdonahueflute.com. Pretty easy to remember. I usually have a calendar of upcoming dates. I need to get in there and plug a couple of things more for the upcoming season, but that's constantly being updated, and that's the best place. I kind of fail on the social media aspect a lot when it comes to promoting my career. I mean, if you go to my Facebook page, I think it's 90% dog related, and everyone's be like, "Hey, here's this concert that I'm having or something." But
Okay, it's almost like you
and
live two separate lives. There's two
and
James Donahues.
and two James Donahues with two full-time jobs is really what it boils down to. But yeah, and as far as Instagram, I have an account and I never use it. So
I've only recently started doing a lot on Instagram and Facebook and really trying to promote things and doing things every single day. And that's like a full-time job too, as
mhm.
well to get all that. And then I've noticed that my amount of time that I'm actually practicing has substantially been cut because of trying to do that. But
Right, yeah.
if you're practicing all the time, you're not going to get phone calls to gigs, which is also problematic.
Right.
So,
It's a real problem. You have to. I mean, when you're in school you can spend 6 to 8 hours a day with your instrument, and when
Hmm.
you get out in the real world, you have to, your priority number one has to be paying the bills,
Yep.
you know, and practicing doesn't pay the bills. It's just a necessary evil. So
Yeah.
my teacher at Oberlin was like, you know, at this point, you know how to play the flute. If you have to practice more than an hour or an hour and a half a day, you're doing something wrong. So it's kind of how I've tried to.
Yeah, that's about the amount of time. I probably get an hour if I'm lucky, and
Yeah,
then but summertime I get a little bit more. But you know,
right. I think we all
maybe
do.
I need to extend my schedule, sleep less, and then find a hobby and maybe breed dogs like you or something.
Something, yeah.
Well, thank you again for being here. I just wanted to shout out those dates again. It's November 9th. It's a Saturday at the Chicago Flute Festival. And then you said the third Thursday of December, which is the 19th.
Correct.
And that is going to be where again?
At the Chicago Cultural Center, and so it's a lunchtime concert, so it's at noon.
All right. And once you have links and stuff like that, or if you do have links, I'll just put it in the description of the video below. So this has been Sean Head with James Donahue, professional flutist and dog knowledge extraordinaire. So I look forward to seeing you guys in the future.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Sean. It was great.
Yep. And bye.